The deep ocean is a place of truly staggering beauty, its sheer scale almost impossible for our minds to fully comprehend. Consider this: more than 95% of our planet's water exists in a state of near total darkness, far below the shimmering surface where sunlight can no longer penetrate. By volume, this hidden realm is, by a massive margin, the largest single habitat on Earth. Let's try a little thought experiment to put that into perspective. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine every sprawling city you've ever explored, every vast, ancient forest you've ever walked through. Remember how endless they felt? Now, add to that every towering mountain you've ever climbed, with all the sweeping valleys stretching out below. Think about the sheer size of your home country, the hours or even days it takes just to get from one side to the other. If you could somehow gather all of those immense places together, they wouldn't even begin to fill a tiny corner of this abyss. Here's another way to think about it. If you were to take Mount Everest, the tallest point on land, flip it upside down, and plunge it into the ocean, its peak would still be a full 2 kilometers short of reaching the bottom of the deepest trench. But this isn't just empty, crushing space. Down here, in the fathomless dark, through veils of midnight blue, within cavernous trenches, and among the strange, shifting landscapes of the seafloor, there is life. Life is absolutely everywhere. The creatures that dwell in this world might seem to play by a set of alien rules, taking on forms that look bizarre, even otherworldly, to our sun-accustomed eyes. They have adapted to a world of immense pressure, freezing temperatures, and eternal night, thriving in an environment we are only just beginning to understand. It's truly all a matter of perspective, isn't it? To someone who has never encountered one before, a common garden frog could appear just as bizarre and otherworldly as a deep-sea anglerfish with its glowing lure. In this bustling, submerged world, brimming with incredible and often strange wonders, every single creature has its own unique purpose. Each one is weaving its own distinct story into the grand, intricate tapestry of the deep. So, I invite you to please get comfortable, settle in, and slow your breathing. Allow the light around you to gradually fade into blackness. Now, imagine the immense, almost unimaginable pressure folding in on all sides as you begin to sink deeper and deeper into the abyss. We start our journey with that immense weight, a crushing force pressing in from every conceivable direction. And then, after the pressure, there is sound. The ocean is like an ancient, cavernous cathedral. Its vast nave is pure darkness. Its stone is the water itself, and its magnificent organ is the symphony of clicks, cracks, and haunting songs that emanate from countless species, sending their vibrations out into the endless dark. Consider the sperm whale, which produces the loudest biological sounds on our planet, their powerful clicks and resonant booms echoing for miles through the water. Or picture the vibrant coral reefs, which crackle with the collective sound of a million tiny shrimp and darting fish. All of this noise, this symphony of life, travels further, faster, and with far greater clarity than sound ever could through the air. To be more specific, sound moves more than 4 times faster in water. This is because water's tightly packed molecules are incredibly efficient at transmitting vibrational energy. In a way, you could think of the ocean as the skin of a great cosmic drum, struck ceaselessly by the countless lives beating within it. It is a world perpetually shaken into song by a billion beating hearts. And here we are, suspended at a magnificent threshold, a boundary between 2 entirely different worlds. Above us lies the familiar, sunlit realm of the tides, a world rhythmically pulled and pushed by the moon. But below us, stretching into an unimaginable darkness, lies the kingdom of night, a place completely indifferent to the celestial dance that governs the surface. This is where the true ocean really begins, with the profound and humbling understanding that the vast majority of our planet was never made for us, that it is a domain utterly alien to our land-dwelling existence. So, let's take a deep breath and dive in, to see what wonders we can find in this immense, hidden world. But instead of following the usual path and starting at the sun-drenched top, like these nature films almost always do, let's begin for once at the very bottom. Let's journey to the farthest, most mysterious reaches of the sea, to a place known as the Abyssal Plain. Imagine a vast, seemingly desolate expanse of flat seabed, a landscape so immense that it covers more than half of the Earth's entire surface. It unfolds at staggering depths, typically between 3,000 and 6,000 meters below the waves. This is, without a doubt, one of the flattest, most uniform landscapes on our entire planet. Its slopes are so incredibly gradual that the elevation might only change by a meter or two over a distance of several kilometers. Down here, there is no wind to stir the waters. The currents are almost imperceptibly gentle, and everything that falls from the world above simply yields to the relentless, silent pull of gravity. Of course, no sunlight ever reaches this profound darkness, and the pressure is immense, capable of being hundreds of times greater than what we experience on land. Yet, in this apparent emptiness, a faint, almost imperceptible richness slowly accumulates over millennia. A constant, gentle rain of sediment drifts down through thousands of meters of water, a fine, delicate snow of dead things from the vibrant world far above. You could cheekily call it ocean dandruff, but it's far more poetic to think of it as the dust of continents, the microscopic, intricate shells of plankton, and the final remains of every creature that has ever lived and died in the waters above, all settling to form a soft, final blanket on the ocean floor. In the most remote, tranquil basins of the deep ocean, far from the influence of land and turbulent currents, a slow, silent process unfolds. Fine particles of sediment, the accumulated dust of millennia, drift down through the water column and settle on the seabed at an astonishingly slow rate, about 1 single millimeter for every 1,000 years that pass. It's a pace almost impossible to comprehend on a human timescale. Yet, over the vast expanse of geological time, this gentle accumulation has a profound effect. Over millions upon millions of years, this sediment builds up, layer upon meticulous layer, creating a thick, soft blanket that can sometimes become hundreds of meters deep. In the most ancient parts of the ocean, where the seafloor has been undisturbed for eons, this accumulation is truly staggering. Here, more than a vertical 1.5 kilometers of this fine silt lies compressed into the seabed, a colossal archive of Earth's history. Each distinct layer represents a different era, capturing the chemical signatures and microscopic remains of life from ages past. It's like a great, unread book of time, with each stratum a page waiting to be deciphered, telling the story of the ocean's long and complex history. Given this stable, nutrient-rich environment, it's no surprise that a whole host of specialized animals has adapted to make this seemingly barren place their permanent home. In fact, many of these creatures have evolved to such a degree that they have given up the ability to swim entirely, committing themselves fully to a life on the seafloor. Here, we find the detritivores, the great sustainers and indispensable recyclers in a realm largely defined by scarcity and patience. They are the crucial cleanup crew of the abyss. Across this dark, silty carpet, a tireless and massive workforce of invertebrates toils endlessly, day and night, in perpetual darkness. They methodically churn through the sediment, sifting and processing it with specialized appendages. Their entire existence is dedicated to feeding on the organic detritus, the so-called marine snow, that rains down from the productive, sunlit waters far, far above. Chief among these industrious creatures are the humble but vital sea cucumbers, masters of this domain. With that image in mind, let's return our focus to the deep. On the abyssal plane, life moves at a different pace, driven by a relentless, slow-motion search for sustenance. Here, sea cucumbers methodically swallow mouthfuls of sediment, patiently sifting through the mud for any trace of nourishment. What passes through their simple digestive systems emerges cleansed, the grains of sand and silt turned over and renewed. It's a humble but vital role. In some vast stretches of the deep, these unassuming creatures make up the overwhelming majority of all visible life, processing the seafloor in much the same way that earthworms till the soil on land. They are the unseen, silent engine that keeps the entire deep-sea ecosystem alive and functioning. Prowling among these diligent grazers are the giant isopods, the deep-sea cousins of the common woodlouse or pillbug you might find in your garden. Down here, however, they have grown to monstrous proportions, with some individuals reaching nearly 0.5 meters in length. These armored scavengers are a crucial part of the abyss's cleanup crew, ensuring that the great cycle of life keeps turning. In the deep, nothing ever goes to waste. Every last flake of flesh that drifts down from above, every scrap of organic matter, is eventually consumed by something and recycled back into the living fabric of this dark world. Sometimes, the plane receives a more substantial gift than just the gentle rain of marine snow. A massive tree that once stood tall on a distant continent, or perhaps the heavy wooden hull of an old ship, might get swept out to sea during a powerful storm. As it sinks through the crushing depths, it becomes what scientists call a woodfall. This unexpected bounty doesn't last long. Specialized colonies of wood-boring clams and hungry microbes make quick work of its tough, fibrous structure, diligently breaking it down and releasing the locked-up nutrients into the surrounding water. Around this temporary oasis, a small but thriving community gathers, feeding on the feast until the very last sliver of timber has dissolved back into the plain. What's so incredible is that there are organisms down here, and even entire communities of microbes in the deep that rely almost entirely on wood for their survival. It's a remarkable connection, considering this is wood that can only grow on land, often thousands of meters directly above them in a completely different world. And make no mistake, wood is not an easy meal. Its primary component is lignocellulose, a famously tough material made of cellulose fibers that are securely locked within a matrix of lignin, a compound that fiercely resists decay. It's nature's original composite material, built to last. To break it down, a host of specialist creatures must enlist microbial partners. These microscopic allies produce incredibly powerful enzymes, capable of dismantling the complex structure of wood, effectively converting carbon that was grown on land into living animal biomass on the abyssal floor. It's a slow but steady process. Over months and even years, these woodfalls go through a fascinating succession of different inhabitants. The first colonists to arrive are typically small, opportunistic scavengers like amphipods and isopods, along with a film of bacteria that begins the initial breakdown. Eventually, these pioneers give way to the main consumers, wood-boring bivalves like the shipworm, and their various associates who feed on the scraps. Later still, as the wood becomes saturated with sulfides from the decay process, chemosynthetic bacterial mats and other specialist invertebrates take over, feasting on the chemical energy released. This continues until the resource is completely and utterly exhausted. While the exact mix of species can vary depending on the region and the specific depth, this fundamental pattern holds true again and again across the globe. A single tree that fell into a river on a distant shore becomes a vibrant, temporary island of energy, stitching the fabric of terrestrial life directly into the deep sea's intricate food web. The appetites down here are so voracious that they can make an entire wooden ship vanish in under 100 years, typically leaving behind only the metals and other materials they can't digest. But, as with any rule, there are exceptions. In March of 2022, the wreck of Ernest Shackleton's legendary ship, the Endurance, in a truly remarkable discovery. The legendary ship Endurance was found with all of its wood perfectly intact, a staggering 107 years after it was lost to the ice in 1915. Resting an incredible 10,000 feet below the surface in the frigid waters of Antarctica, the vessel looks almost frozen in time, as if it sank only yesterday. The reason for its astonishing preservation lies in the unique environment of the Southern Ocean. Here, events known as woodfalls, where large pieces of wood sink to the seafloor, are exceptionally rare. Consequently, the local deep-sea animals never adapted to use wood as a food source. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. The nearest landmass, the continent of Antarctica, is completely treeless. There was simply no consistent supply of wood reaching the depths, and therefore no evolutionary pressure for any creature to develop the ability to digest it. It would be entirely pointless for a species to evolve a reliance on a meal that almost never arrives. Furthermore, the very animals that are capable of breaking down wood in other oceans, like certain clams and shipworms, are unable to migrate this far south. The Antarctic Polar Front, a natural oceanic boundary where the cold Antarctic waters meet warmer subantarctic waters, creates a sharp and dramatic drop in temperature. This thermal shock acts as an impassable barrier, effectively isolating the Southern Ocean's deep-sea ecosystem from these wood-boring specialists. But even though it hosts no creatures that can digest the wood itself, the Endurance is far from a lifeless relic. Instead, it has become a vibrant oasis of life in the abyssal plain. In the vast, soft emptiness of the deep-sea floor, a solid structure like a shipwreck is prime real estate. Deep-sea creatures flock to it, using its surfaces as a solid place to attach and grow. The primary colonizers of the Endurance are mostly filter feeders. They use specialized, often feathery appendages to snatch tiny organic particles, those same bits of marine snow and dead animals we saw earlier, as they drift by in the water currents. Living right alongside them are other fascinating organisms like sea squirts, which continuously cycle water through their bodies to trap any available food. But as incredible as this wooden sanctuary is, it's not the only feast that feeds the deep. Even greater sources of nourishment make their way down to the abyss. But there's another, even more significant source of deep-sea sustenance, one that's available to a much wider array of organisms than just the few specialists who can digest wood. These are the incredible phenomena known as whale falls, the final, solemn descent of an ocean giant to the abyssal plains. When a massive creature like a blue or fin whale dies in the open ocean, its journey is far from over. Instead of simply disappearing, its immense body, weighing tens of tons, begins a slow, silent, and profoundly important pilgrimage to the seafloor, thousands of meters below. This descent can take weeks, even months, as the carcass drifts through the water column, a ghostly galleon sinking into the perpetual darkness. As it falls, it becomes a moving feast, attracting opportunistic scavengers from the midwater who tear away at the blubber and flesh. But the true spectacle begins when the whale finally comes to rest on the soft sediment of the ocean floor. In this vast, food-scarce desert, the sudden arrival of such an enormous concentration of organic matter is like a city-sized banquet appearing out of nowhere. It's an event that can fundamentally alter the local ecosystem for decades, sometimes even for a century. The initial arrival attracts the large, mobile scavengers of the deep. Sleeper sharks, hagfish, and giant isopods swarm the carcass in a feeding frenzy that can last for months, stripping the skeleton clean. But this is just the first act in a long, multi-stage drama of decomposition and colonization. Once the bulk of the soft tissue is gone, a new community of smaller organisms moves in, feasting on the remaining scraps and enriching the surrounding sediment. Finally, in the last and longest stage, specialized bacteria begin to break down the lipids within the whale's bones, producing sulfides that, in turn, support a unique chemosynthetic ecosystem of mussels, clams, and tube worms, a vibrant oasis of life thriving on the skeleton itself, powered not by the sun, but by the very essence of the fallen Leviathan. For the creatures dwelling on the deep-sea floor, the world isn't a vast ocean full of stars, adrift in a cosmic expanse, with no medium for life between the celestial giants. Their reality is much simpler, yet just as profound. To the animals of the deep, there is only the soft, endless silt below and the crushing, infinite void above. And from that dark, watery void come strange and wondrous visitors. They arrive with wings and tendrils, and all manner of unfamiliar bodily forms that grant them an effortless grace as they drift through the deep blue. These animals, these travelers from the mid-water, visit the seafloor for a specific reason. They descend because the abyssal plain offers what the vast, open water cannot: a chance to feed, a place to rest, or a safe haven to reproduce. It is a destination of purpose. From the darkness, enormous six-gill sharks descend, drawn down from the higher columns of water by the irresistible scent of carrion, or the subtle movements of smaller scavengers already at work on a fresh kill. These are heavy-bodied, slow-moving predators, perfectly adapted to this environment. They possess one extra gill slit compared to their shallow-water shark relatives, a crucial adaptation for surviving the extremely low oxygen levels found down here. These ancient sharks can grow to incredible sizes, often exceeding 4 meters in length. Some giants have even been recorded reaching 6 meters, roughly the length of a minibus. But they are not the only sharks in this abyss. There are ghost sharks too, the chimeras. These are not true sharks, but are instead their ancient cousins, a mysterious lineage that diverged from the main shark line more than 400 million years ago. They hunt not with sudden, violent strikes, but by gently pressing their sensitive mouths to the mud, feeling for the faint electrical signals of buried prey. With jaws lined in hard, mineralized plates instead of individual teeth, they can easily crush the shells of their victims. With powerful, grinding tooth plates, they can effortlessly crush the tough shells of crabs, clams, and the protective armor of small invertebrates that have burrowed deep into the sediment beds. To locate these hidden meals, they rely on sensitive patches of skin on their snouts, which are capable of detecting the faint electrical signals emitted by their prey. This remarkable ability guides them with precision through the murky depths. Furthermore, their eyes, which are among the largest of any fish of their size, are perfectly adapted to the low light conditions. They are finely tuned to gather every last photon of light, often originating from the bioluminescence of other deep-sea creatures. Suddenly, something extraordinary unfurls from the darkness. Its fins are broad, and its arms descend like long, fine threads, trailing gracefully over the stone below. This is the big fin squid, known to science as Magna Pinna. It is an incredibly elusive creature, a true phantom of the abyss. In fact, there have been fewer than a couple of dozen confirmed encounters with this squid worldwide, making every sighting a significant event. Despite its rarity, its silhouette is utterly unmistakable. The big fin squid possesses 8 arms and 2 tentacles that it extends into the current, creating a vast, net-like structure. Some individuals have been measured at over 6 meters in total length, with most of that being their astonishingly long, filament-like appendages. What these filaments are actually used for remains a mystery, though scientists have some compelling theories. Many suspect that the big fin squid is a calm, passive hunter. Perhaps it simply holds its arms out, waiting for unsuspecting prey to bump into them. Another possibility is that it drifts low over the seabed, letting its delicate filaments graze the sea floor to ensnare whatever they happen to touch. These enigmatic cephalopods roam widely throughout the world's oceans, and they have been found deeper than any other squid yet known. The ROV Hercules has filmed big fin squids at depths between 2,000 and 2,400 meters. More recently, a juvenile was documented in the Philippine Trench at an incredible depth of 6,212 meters, pushing the known limits of their habitat even further into the crushing dark. Deep within the Hadal Zone, a truly remarkable sight was captured, making it the deepest squid observation ever recorded. But the abyss holds even stranger wonders. Imagine a visitor from another world, a creature that looks like a tangled mass of pale threads drifting through the eternal night. This is Bathyphysa conifera, more famously known as the flying spaghetti monster. And yes, that is its actual, widely accepted common name, a testament to its bizarre and otherworldly appearance. This creature is a highly effective predator. Its long, unbranched tentacles are armed with batteries of nematocysts, specialized stinging cells that stun and capture unsuspecting prey. It essentially fishes in the dark, trailing these lethal lines through the water column, waiting for a meal to blunder into its grasp. What's even more fascinating is that this isn't a single animal in the way we typically think of one. Instead, it's a colonial organism, a complex being formed from many individual specialized units called zooids. These zooids are all genetically identical, but they perform different functions, much like the organs in our own bodies. They are all joined together into a single, cohesive organism. At the top, a gas-filled float, called a pneumatophore, provides buoyancy, keeping the colony suspended. Trailing below this is a long line of feeding and reproductive bodies, each playing its part in the survival and propagation of the whole. In this way, it functions like a true interstellar ark or a generation ship, a self-contained vessel navigating the vast, dark ocean. Even their method of reproduction follows the logic of a ship seeding new worlds. The colonies are unisexual, meaning an entire colony is either all male or all female. They grow reproductive zooids called gonophores, which are clustered in branches along the body. These specialized units produce either eggs or sperm, which are then released directly into the water. When fertilization occurs, a single protozoid develops from the fertilized egg. This founding polyp is the beginning of everything. It starts a process of budding, creating all the other zooids, the feeding, defensive, and reproductive modules, until a complete new siphonophore is built, a complex entity formed from many lives acting as one. For these perpetual wanderers, the seafloor isn't a home as it is for the mud dwellers. It's merely a temporary station in their endless journey through the deep. Perhaps they see us as a kind of cosmic drive-through. We return again and again, brief, almost ghostly visitors to their mud-bound world, before we drift back up into the silent, black void. To the creatures permanently anchored to the seabed below, we must seem as fleeting and utterly strange as migrating birds do to us on the surface. We are beings from another place, another world entirely, alighting only for a moment before disappearing once more. Venturing deeper, past the exposed rock faces that have so far avoided being entombed by the constant rain of silt, we eventually come to the very seams of the Earth. This is where the planet's crust is actively being pulled apart by immense geological forces. Here, in these deep fissures, seawater seeps down into the cracks, penetrating miles into the crust. Down there, It is superheated by the molten rock of the mantle to extraordinary temperatures, often exceeding a blistering 400 degrees Celsius. Under immense pressure, this superheated water doesn't boil. Instead, it rushes violently back up towards the ocean floor. As it erupts, this water carries with it a tremendous wealth of dissolved minerals, a chemical cocktail stolen from the superheated rocks far below. When this scorching, mineral-rich fluid finally meets the near-freezing deep ocean water, a dramatic reaction occurs. The dissolved minerals instantly crystallize out of the solution, building up over time to form towering, intricate chimneys of stone and metal. From the crowns of these structures, great, billowing plumes rise continuously into the water column. Some of these are famously known as black smokers. They get their name from the dark, dense clouds they emit, which are incredibly rich in sulfides of iron, copper, and zinc. These individual vents don't exist in isolation. Together, they form entire hydrothermal fields, sometimes stretching for hundreds of meters across the desolate landscape of the abyss. But their greatest, most profound marvel lies not in their spectacular mineral towers or their raw geological power. But this isn't just about geology. It's about the life that gathers here, the life that makes a sanctuary in this seemingly hostile chemical mix. A living, breathing fuzz coats the rock, a vibrant testament to nature's ingenuity. This isn't algae or moss. It's something far more extraordinary. It is formed of vast, sprawling colonies of chemosynthetic microbes. These remarkable organisms have no need for sunlight. In fact, they thrive in the absolute darkness of the deep ocean. Instead, they draw their energy directly from the vent's chemical torrents, a rich soup of compounds that would be toxic to most other life forms. They take in hydrogen sulfide, methane, and iron, and through a miraculous process called chemosynthesis, they transform these raw materials into the sugars that fuel their existence. This quiet, unseen alchemy is the very foundation of an entire, bustling community. It's an ecosystem sustained not by the distant sun above, but by the raw, elemental power of fire, water, and stone from deep within the earth. Among the most wondrous are the creatures that have surrendered their mouths and stomachs entirely, evolving a completely different way to live. These are the giant tube worms, known to science as Riftia pachyptilla. They root themselves firmly around the vents, their soft bodies sheathed in long, elegant white tubes that can grow to an astonishing 3 meters, or nearly 10 feet, in length. It's difficult to truly appreciate their scale through a screen, but some of these worms stand so tall as to dwarf any human being that has ever lived. They are true giants of the abyss. At their tips, a spectacular crown of crimson feathery plumes unfurls into the water, a vibrant splash of color against the stark, volcanic backdrop. The upper portion of the giant tube worm is a vibrant feathery plume, rich with blood pigments that are specifically adapted to draw in the chemical breath of the hydrothermal vents. This striking red tip contrasts sharply with the rest of its body. Beneath this plume, the main stalk is pale and hollow, a strange sight for an animal of its size. This is because these remarkable worms have evolved to have neither a mouth nor a gut. Their survival strategy is entirely different. Instead of eating, they house a specialized internal organ called a trophosome, which serves as a bustling home to billions of symbiotic bacteria. These microscopic partners are the key to the worm's existence. The microbes feast on the hydrogen sulfides drawn from the superheated vent water, chemicals that would be toxic to most other life forms. Through a process called chemosynthesis, they convert these chemicals into organic matter, and in return, they feed their host from the inside out. It's a perfect partnership. The worms cannot live without the microbes. This theme of codependence is common in this extreme environment. The Pompeii worm, a neighbor to the giant tube worms, also relies on bacteria. This creature builds fragile, U-shaped tubes directly along the walls of black smokers, where the surrounding water temperature can soar to a blistering 80 degrees Celsius. It survives this inferno because of its microbial allies. Along its back, the Pompeii worm cultivates a thick, fleece-like coat of these bacteria, which it feeds and encourages with its own mucus secretions. In return for this home, the bacterial fleece insulates the worm from the extreme heat, detoxifies the harsh chemicals, and even provides a source of nourishment. To us, living in such conditions seems utterly impossible. But here, in the crushing pressure and darkness of the deep sea, it is simply another ecological niche, successfully filled. The creatures of the deep are masters of adaptation, rather good at making the most of any habitat or resource, no matter how strange. Deep-sea skates, which are relatives of rays, use the outskirts of vents, or the warm, hot seats, on seamounts to incubate their eggs among the geothermally heated rocks. It's a clever approach to speed up development, and it's shared by some octopuses too. At a site known as the Dorado Outcrop, off the coast of Costa Rica, hundreds of deep-sea octopuses have been observed doing the exact same thing. In this unique deep-sea environment, thousands of octopuses gather in what can only be described as a vast, underwater nursery. The females seek out and settle into rocky crevices, specifically those warmed by the gentle hydrothermal seepage from the ocean floor. Here, they curl their bodies protectively around their precious eggs, beginning a patient and solemn vigil. In this dedicated state, they will brood for years, waiting for their young to finally hatch. Remarkably, they do not seem to leave their eggs unattended for any reason, not even to feed themselves. The unusually warm waters flowing from these hydrothermal vents likely play a crucial role in this extraordinary process. Scientists believe this warmth increases the mother's metabolic rate, which in turn speeds up the embryonic development of the eggs. This gives them a significant advantage compared to typical deep-sea abyssal octopods living in the frigid darkness. Even with this thermal boost, the wait is incredibly long. The eggs in some of these octopus gardens can take up to 4 years to hatch, earning them the record for the longest known incubation time in the entire animal kingdom. But this underwater mountain is not just home to octopuses. Beyond the vents and seeps, on the flanks of other nearby seamounts, lie even more sanctuaries teeming with life. Great coral gardens are spread across the slopes, creating vibrant, otherworldly landscapes. These corals thrive not on sunlight, which cannot penetrate these depths, but on the deep ocean currents that deliver a constant supply of nutrients and microscopic prey. Woven among these coral formations, vast sponge grounds rise from the seafloor. These are ancient, slow-growing organisms, their porous bodies constantly filtering the water around them. In doing so, they provide essential habitats and vital shelter for countless other deep-sea creatures, forming the foundation of a complex and thriving ecosystem. Creatures of the deep have found ingenious ways to survive in the most extreme environments. But it's important to remember that not every part of the ocean is blessed with some kind of sanctuary. Far above the hydrothermal vents and the towering seamounts, there are vast, open regions with no anchor, no rock, and absolutely no refuge. This is the pelagic zone, the water column itself. So, what of the inhabitants of this place? What of those who spread their wings and brave the void, in place of putting down roots on the sea floor? What of those who do not visit the abyssal plains, and instead stay where there is only the endless blue of the sunlit zone, or the yawning black of the midnight zone, fading into an impenetrable haze? For these creatures, survival becomes a perpetual game of concealment. They must blend in, by any means necessary, for they cannot simply wedge themselves into a rocky crevice or burrow into the soft silt up here. In this immense, featureless expanse, there is nowhere to hide. Their entire existence is a delicate dance of hide and seek, where being seen can mean instant death. To cope with this constant threat, they have evolved a stunning array of camouflage techniques. We can generally attribute these adrift animals to 3 main subdivisions based on their survival strategies. Some creatures practice a form of mimicry, imitating something dangerous or uninteresting. A juvenile fish, for instance, might cleverly disguise itself as a piece of a nearly nutritionless, stinging siphonophore, in the hopes that this masquerade makes it seem unpalatable to any passing predators. Others take a more aggressive approach, using their appearance not to hide, but to deceive and attract. They might employ bioluminescence, creating a dazzling lure to entice unsuspecting prey into striking distance. And then, there are those who do not wish to be seen at all, by anyone, for any reason. This is by far the most common and perhaps the most fascinating strategy of all, the art of becoming invisible. In the vast, open ocean, camouflage isn't just an advantage, it's a fundamental rule for survival. It's by far the most popular choice for life in the pelagic void. So much so that everywhere you look, you'll discover some new and fascinating variation on the art of making oneself disappear. That is, of course, if you're even able to find these creatures in the first place. Many have evolved to be bright silver, their scales acting like a mosaic of mirrors. This allows them to reflect as much ambient light as possible, effectively blending their bodies into the shimmering, sunlit waters around them. Others have taken the opposite approach, adopting a deep, dark red coloration. This might seem counterintuitive, but it's a brilliant strategy. Red wavelengths of light are the first to be filtered out by the water, meaning that even at relatively shallow depths, a red animal becomes functionally invisible, vanishing into the darkness. Then there's the classic strategy of countershading, where an animal has a dark upper surface and a bright, pale belly. Viewed from above, its dark back blends in with the deep, dark abyss below. Viewed from beneath, its light underside merges with the bright, sunlit surface. It's a simple, yet incredibly effective way to obscure their silhouette from every possible angle. However, some creatures take it a step further and become simply invisible. This is a luxury option not afforded to most animals outside the ocean world. It is only here, in this exclusive club, that the water itself provides a shield from the sun's damaging ultraviolet rays. This protection releases these animals from the biological need for protective pigmentation, allowing them to evolve true transparency. Here in the deep, be nature's true specters. From the void drifts a near invisible wanderer, the telescope octopus, Amphitryon pelagicus. Gelatinous and almost completely colorless, this remarkable creature, with its 8 equal arms, spends its entire life suspended in the open water across the tropical Indo-Pacific, a ghostly presence in the endless blue. In the vast, inky blackness of the mid-water, an extraordinary creature has evolved the unique way to navigate its world. This is the realm of the telescope octopus, an animal perfectly adapted to gather the faintest, most scattered photons of light that manage to penetrate the deep. Its most striking feature, and the source of its name, is its remarkable set of eyes. Unlike the forward-facing eyes of most animals, its eyes are tubular, swiveling, and almost stalk-like, constantly scanning the darkness. This specialized anatomy dramatically increases its field of vision, allowing it to capture light from multiple angles. The telescope octopus is one of the only truly pelagic octopus species known to science. The term pelagic means it lives its entire life out in the open water column, suspended in the seemingly endless void, far from any solid surface. It has been recorded at depths ranging from about 150 meters all the way down to a staggering 2,000 meters. This lifestyle is a stark contrast to that of its relatives. The vast majority of octopus species are demersal, meaning they live on or very near the ocean floor. They are masters of the benthic world, typically constructing dens from rocks, shells, and other seafloor structures to hide from danger and ambush their prey. But the telescope octopus has no need for such a den. Its strategy for survival is entirely different, relying on stealth and heightened awareness. Its gelatinous body is almost completely transparent, a form of camouflage that effectively hides its outline against the dark backdrop, making it nearly invisible to anything looking for a meal. This transparency, combined with those incredible tubular eyes, gives it a crucial advantage. It can constantly watch for the telltale bioluminescent glow of predators approaching, potential prey drifting by, or even a prospective mate passing through the three-dimensional night of the deep sea. It is a creature perfectly suited to remain suspended here forever, a testament to the incredible principle that wherever there is a space to be used in nature, life will inevitably find a way to use it. In the vast, seemingly featureless emptiness of the open ocean, a remarkable evolutionary trend has taken hold. Many of these pioneering species have grown into giants. In a realm where there is truly nowhere to hide, the giants themselves become the only available shelter. Take, for instance, the billowing cloaks of massive jellyfish. What might appear as a simple, drifting creature transforms into the tender, protective arms of a guardian, shepherding smaller, more vulnerable life forms across the endless watery plains. These tiny fish find refuge among the stinging tentacles, a mobile sanctuary in a world of predators. It's fascinating to consider how these jellyfish accomplish such a role, especially since they don't possess a centralized brain like we do. Instead, they operate on a diffuse network of nerves, a nerve net that permeates their entire body. This intricate system is designed to sense touch, detect chemical changes in the water, and perceive light. Specialized neurons coordinate the rhythmic, hypnotic pulses of their bell, propelling them through the water. Around the edge of that bell, you'll find sensory hubs, and in some species, sophisticated nerve rings that help time each contraction with perfect precision, and interpret the constant stream of signals from their environment. In this way, a delicate web of nerves choreographs a body that is astonishingly simple in its composition, made of 98% water and just 2% gelatinous protein. Yet, this entire structure is finely tuned to minute changes and stimuli that you or I could never hope to perceive. These physically simple life forms are far more than just survivors drifting aimlessly in the deep sea. They are undisputed masters of their domain. Just as we truly only know the land, and the creatures of the seabed only know the mud and sand, these drifters are intimately and profoundly connected to the dark, the currents, and the silent echoes of countless sounds and living lights that define their world. For the creatures that dwell in the crushing pressures of the deep, this is the only world they will likely ever know. The sudden, brilliant lights of a submersible robot might be the only glimpse they ever get of our existence, a fleeting encounter with a world entirely alien to their own. This is their reality, and it is also, by far, the largest part of our own planet, a vast, mysterious realm that should never be overlooked or taken for granted. The ocean doesn't just begin at the sandy shore where waves crash, and it certainly doesn't end where our eyes meet the distant horizon. It's not merely a surface to be crossed by ships, or a simple, passive backdrop for the weather systems that sweep across continents. The ocean's true beginning is far more intricate. It starts in the clouds, in the life-giving rain that falls upon the land, and in the countless rivers that carve their way through mountains and valleys to finally meet the sea. Its influence begins wherever the salt-laced air is carried on the wind, and wherever the inexorable pull of the tide is felt, shaping coastlines and daily life. We often tend to picture the sea as a flat, blue, and largely empty expanse, a two-dimensional feature on a map. But that perception is its greatest and most profound illusion. At its very heart, the ocean is not a surface of waves, it is an interior. It is the immense, hollowed-out space of our world that drops away into profound darkness just beneath our feet, a vertical landscape of canyons and plains that dwarfs anything on land. It is a home, teeming with life beyond our wildest imagination, and in its dark, silent depths, it is truly, breathtakingly beautiful.